Yaama. This is Bruce Makara Shillingsworth. I am a Budgety Murawari man. Today is Friday the 3rd of November 2023. What I want to yarn about today is the way forward. Again, this is from my perspective. It is in no which way a reflection of the 360 plus nations or 500 different clan groups across this continent. It's just simply my perspective. And it's important to have these yarns, critical, I believe, because it's knowing and understanding what people determine as success, what they define as progress, what do they see as unity and working together. And this is just my perspective as a Budgety Murawari man. There is one word that comes to mind when I think about the way forward, and it's simply professionalism. Professionalism as in acknowledging First Nations, non-Indigenous or multicultural in the corporation. When we talk about First Nations perspective, we're talking about the oldest continuous living culture in the world. The infrastructure, 80 plus thousand year old infrastructure of First Nations boundaries defined by major landmarks, mountains, ridges, rivers, oceans, the rest of it. Law, L-O-R-E, custom, tradition, language, that is fact. That is the reality. Now, in comparison to a colonial corporate construct, which is very different from a non-Indigenous multicultural, and I'll get there, but talking about a corporation construct, which is the issue, which is the perpetrator, which is why we're in this mess in this particular time. When we look at the colonial corporate, and again, when I talk about colonization, I'm not referring to non-Indigenous mob. I'm not referring to the multicultural. I'm referring to the corporation, Commonwealth, British, Australia Corporation. That is the issue. The system, the process, the law, the infrastructure of that corporation, internal corporation, is the issue. When we talk about colonization, it is the landing of the British, the Commonwealth. Why they landed here and what they consistently do today, which is primarily commerce and trade, which is what corporations are all about. They prioritize the corporation's interests over the health, welfare, well-being and best interest of the people. The citizens, members of the construct of the corporation, is what's defined as slaves. Simply hamsters on the wheel, chugging away, cogs on the wheel of turning, the wheels of the system. And I'm going to be a horse that bolts out of the stable here and first to say non-Indigenous mob need to be professional in separating themselves from the corporation. The corporation is the issue. Everything that is encapsulated within the corporation, I'm talking about flags, which is a maritime construct. I'm talking about the legal system, which is a colonial corporate system. We look at police, which is internal policy and forces. We look at everything within that is the issue. It is the corporation. And again, citizenship and membership works on a contracting basis, which means you have to consciously contract with them, physically contract with them in order to be a part of it. You can walk out of that today in making a conscious decision, making a logical decision. And it's simple. But the problem is that people are so much under an illusion that corporate construct has the health, welfare, well-being or best interest of the people, but in reality they're just giving them shiny trinkets, or where they're enslaved in a situation where they think money is the only way, an artificial, unsustainable construct. That's the corporation. You've got non-Indigenous or multicultural mob over this side. Different from First Nations, different from the corporation. The way forward, and when I talk about professionalism, when I talk about the way forward, I'm talking about First Nations, non-Indigenous and multicultural coming together. Not expecting it to be done in this colonial corporate construct, which is, when you hear mob talking about, language, tradition, culture and the rest of it should be taught in schools, in the construct. Laws, legislations, policies. First Nations people should be sitting up in Parliament representing First Nations people in the construct. No. The reason we talk about sovereignty is the ability or the fact that First Nations have the power, jurisdiction and authority upon this land. Why I say professionalism is because even within the corporate construct, it does not have validity upon First Nations lands legally. The current status of the Australia-British Commonwealth construct is military occupation. It hasn't conquered First Nations people. We're still here. I'm sitting here talking to you now. It didn't do it through a process of a treaty or an agreement or contract in place. We don't strive to have one in place. The enshrinement of an Indigenous voice within the corporate or foreign constitution was an attempt to cede our sovereignty or to acquiesce or agree with the existence of the Commonwealth, British or Australia construct or operate its trade and commerce on First Nations lands. What I'm saying is that First Nation sovereignty is the ability or the opportunity here. It's the trump card in order for us within our professional capacity to do what needs to be done. And that is First Nations, non-Indigenous people or multicultural coming together and establishing an infrastructure that works, that actually has the health, welfare, well-being, best interest, stability of our future generations. Us in becoming, we're adults. We need to start acting like it. Looking after the flora, the fauna, the water, the land, our environment. Yes, I'm talking about the plants and animals. We also have an obligation, a role and a responsibility to look after them as well. So I hope I gave you something to think about there, and we'll go more into depth about this on some more episodes of this topic of the way forward. But I hope it's enough there to get you critically thinking. The other thing really quickly is the difference between diversity and division. We'll have that as a key theme. Division as in, what the corporation does to us in order to divide and to dominate or conquer, as a lot of people know. Diversity as in acknowledging different cultures, different languages, and how First Nations people, to which has the power, jurisdiction and the authority, is able to accommodate for the non-Indigenous or multicultural religions, lifestyles, all the rest of it. We can do it. It can be done. It will be done. I'll see you, mob, on future episodes of this topic of the way forward. Yalu.